We're going to jump straight back into it now, so let's carry on.
I apologize. I did some things, right? And I feel bad that our country and our culture has it set up to where a person feels like they can't just come out and say what they did, right? And own up to the shit and see what happens. That's where the dichotomy comes into all of this, because and why I fought to keep it things public, because I knew that my divorce stuff would come out, right? So we're circling back to the history. He had a history. His lawyer should have been able to go in and do investigation, doing a research, and see that he did not have a chance at defamation because he's a limited purpose public figure, right? So then you have to prove.
There's a problem with that, though.
What was that? I'm sorry.
There's a problem with that, though.
How?
So while there is this, the whispers on the grapevine of Vic's wrongdoings in the past, of these allegations and stuff.
Sure.
If they were bad enough, they would have caused him a significant amount of harm before all this shit kicked off.
Very true. We've all said
that's
this.
That's where the justification for whether you or Monica or anyone else's actions in the law, are contributing to that. So, whether or not those are true, and I don't care whether or not those are true for this purpose.
Right.
They were not bad enough to lose his job or any of this, and they went on for years. It wasn't until things kicked off in January, February, that he lost his jobs, he lost his conventions.
Mm-hmm.
So whether those rumors existed or not, that doesn't play into the validity of his lawsuit regarding your statements.
Well, but if you look at the history, up until that point, he would do rumor panels, but he would emphatically deny that anything happened, right? Go back and look at the timeline. And I say this with genuine concern for him and why I believe he should look at pursuing a lawsuit against Ty and Nick. Go back and look at the lawsuit, the timeline, and see when he issued his first public apology, right? Now, I'm not saying if it was good or bad. It is what it is. He issued one. The very first time he has ever issued a public statement on any accusations that are brought against him like that in a public way that got I believe it was like 10 or 15, some amount of crazy amount of likes and interactions. So you have Monica and I hadn't even tweeted yet at that point when he issued his first public statement. So if you go back and look at the lawsuit timeline, you have a guy issuing a statement. A couple days later, I think my first tweet came out 6 days after his public statement. But that's why this lawsuit came up, where my lawyer's like, hey, if you look at the transcripts and the documents, how can you say that they did this and this caused you to get terminated or get cons to drop you when all this happened before they ever tweeted?
We have we actually have message evidence. Ron was speaking to people in Kameyakon, trying to get all this done, to get it out of the way, saying, you hire Vic, you can come here, we're going to pull out, and we're going to pull out our funding, our sponsorship funding. That was from, I think it was like January the 18th, 19th, when Vic came out and started his apology, as he's saying it, or his statement. It was in February.
And he was like, it's frozen because it's the assumption that what we did is what caused it. But when you look at the timeline, most of our tweets came out after his initial statement.
See, now he's changing
when you
again.
look at the timeline when things were canceled, it was whenever he started issuing statements, because everybody says stuff online, right? For years. And that is their right. Just like people call me an abuser and blah, blah, blah. That's their right. But whenever he came out with that statement, Cons had to make a decision like, hey, you admitted to these things. We have to separate until there's some stuff, right? And that's the part where I feel like he was misguided by his legal team by not looking at the actual timeline. And that's the part where we brought it up. So that's why our lawyers spelled it out, and you can see it in the court record. I think it was the 16th when he started having his Discord stuff, and that got published. And I think it was the 19th when he had his first statement.
Just checking the messages.
But my first tweet, I don't think was until the 26th. And that part is of contention too, because when people are bringing up the tweet stuff, I'm literally trying to give him the answer that this is my Twitter handle, this is my this is this. But I don't remember making it because there was 400 tweets. Not that I'm not saying that this isn't this. It's just like, this is a question that's the best way you can answer that in that moment is, yeah, that's my Twitter handle. Looks like my tweet. What would be a subsequent question you'd ask in that situation to try to be a better lawyer than the fucking Joker who deposed me?
Well, one thing I do want to ask, Ron, and again, this is not meant to get you riled up or anything like that. Do you think that it would be fair, because these are a lot of questions. These are a lot of question marks, and clearly we're not getting answers for them with the result that we have right now,
right? Because
there's tons of questions still. Do you think it's fair that and this is an unfair question for you, but and I fully admit it, do you think it's fair that the TCPA was filed when it seems like there is at least something that needs to be answered from a fact-finding perspective?
So in that situation, who do you think it seems fair for, in those terms of the lawsuit, or for public information so that people can feel a resolution?
I'm saying that the lawsuit isn't necessarily for anybody else except for between Vic and the parties involved, right? So I'm saying from like a fair perspective, because like I'm like I don't matter, right? Mr. Hop doesn't matter. Ken Jennings doesn't matter in this situation. Like what our wants and needs are doesn't matter at all. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, it's like, okay, well, like you deserve an answer and Vic deserves an answer, and we're not getting an answer with the TCPA.
Well, see, and that's where the fundamental difference in perception. So for us, the TCPA is what we were trying to tell people, because we did provide, and people criticize, well, you said 100 people. Well, we got 17 people to sign and do appropriate affidavits. And
so, like I've said in many videos before and in the previous podcasts, with the affidavit, you got to take some of them off there. You can't have all 17. You got a couple of them where they've even come out and said, oh, I don't even think I was there that time, but I said this. You had one who is medically diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. You don't know what person you're going to get with that one, so that strike that one down. You've got one person saying, oh, well, this happened, but then the person they've mentioned in their affidavit has come out and supported Vic. And like, no, that never happened. So you got to strike theirs out from the actual conversation. And when you get down to it, you're probably going to look at roughly between, I would say, 4 and probably 9 or 10 affidavits which could be used in the actual case. The rest, no, because they've come out and said no, or what I've just said.
And provided documents. And guess what happened? Everything we turned in. People use that to dox people. But the TCPA is there to show when somebody doesn't have a lawsuit. And so while it might be frustrating, but if he actually had a lawsuit, it is. The TCPA is there to protect from frivolous lawsuits. If you can't even overcome the most basic burden of a TCPA,
Isn't Monica the one who filed
is there
that
to protect
TCPA
people like
Vic?
me and Monica who are exercising our right of free speech. So if you can't overcome that, then you don't have the basis to even file the lawsuit in the beginning.
So with that, he's saying that what him and Monica and basically everyone else has said is free speech. That's fair. You know, they could say it, whatever. But they've come out and said basically what we're saying is fact. It's not our opinion, it's fact, but it's free speech. You know, and that is when you got someone, again, like Vic, going, well, no, that never happened. But then, like you were saying, oh, he admitted it. Show us where he actually admitted it. Actually admitted to these questions. Did you do this? Have you done this to someone? Did you force them down? Did you do this? And you can't, because we have seen the deposition videos. And obviously we have seen the part where they said to Vic, oh, did you grab her hair, this, that? He goes, well, no, I ran my fingers through her hair. And because he made that gesture, they're all like, oh, see, he admitted to it. He didn't, though. But they have a habit as well on KV to take the deposition video and take the transcripts, cut them up and paste them into how they want to see them. basically falsifying evidence.
And that's why it's so imperative for him to go and talk to somebody to potentially look at a malpractice lawsuit and look into the referral. Because if you get swept 17-0, and they talk about that, this is something they need to talk to a malpractice lawyer, because in any other case, and in another situation, you get dunked on like that, I would be pissed at my lawyers. If I had lost all of our claims,
To be honest,
you better believe I'd be looking at that. But
There's
in
a
this
problem with
situation,
that number, though, Ron.
Sorry, hold on. Ken?
There's a problem with that number, though, Ron. Sorry.
Go ahead. What's the problem?
17 affidavits or whatever.
Yeah,
or however many affidavits there were.
I believe it was 17.
I know for a fact one of those affidavits contains non-factual information that the person could literally not have been present for their affidavit that was made, the statement was made for. They were not there. They were proven to be in a completely different location. They could not have been there.
Right. Are you talking about the ones that were signed by Ty? Or
no,
because
it was one of the affidavits from the parties supporting you and Monica.
Oh, okay.
One of the affidavits, there is one of the persons could not have physically been present at that place when the alleged incidents took place.
Okay.
That affidavit is most likely information conveyed by a third party and then used as an affidavit.
Null and void.
But that has been proven, and the facts have come out on that.
Well, and that's the part where it's going into the weeds about who proved what. And if it was the case, and honestly, if it could be proven, like that's a Ty's job to take care of it. And let me be very clear. If it did come out that somebody lied, I hope they get prosecuted for lying, because an affidavit, you're sworn under the penalty of perjury, and fuck anybody who lies. And that's how I honestly feel about it. Like, if you lied under the penalty of perjury, good luck. Any one of them. Go.
This is now coming from a man who has said and sworn by these 17 affidavits. And now he's like, oh, they lied. Oh, no one told us. Everyone has been talking about it since August, since everything has happened. So again, now he's a bit like, yeah, fuck those people. Yeah, they should be done. Well, they should, because they're under oath. That's why, again. And to be honest with you, this affidavit is most likely talking about LJ Montello. Because again, she was supposedly in Japan or something, but she was over there, there's a lot of stuff going on, which, by the way Ron is talking and acting, it's either he's like, oh, I'll act about, I didn't know that, or I knew about that, but I'm going to defend it anyway and say, oh yeah, they should be this.
Go to fucking jail, you piece of shit. And that's at any point of this, either side. Like, and maybe it doesn't go to jail, maybe it is this or this, but God help the person who fucking lies.
So
why not withdraw that affidavit, though?
I don't. That's the thing. I don't know. Affidavit you're talking about.
I can point to the affidavit. I can get you the supporting facts that justify. I'm just this.
I would encourage you to send that to Ty, but at this point, it's too far gone. I
mean, yeah, we're in the appeals court now, and it's what it is.
Right.
But I believe this information was determined before we hit the hearings and before we were talking of appeals. So this was verified before then.
Yeah, it was.
But why didn't Ty do anything about it then?
Well, we were the purpose at that point was the affidavits were something that the affidavits were something that would have come later. That determining the validity of them mattered later because of the way the TCPA structure works. And
so one thing. Sorry,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to ask this really quickly before we get onto a different topic. So Ron, like all of the stuff that you're talking about here, it's valid, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff that you're talking about is very valid, and like from my perspective, and I know it would cost more money to go to court. I understand that. But the answers and the things that you're talking about, they're not answered by the TCPA. Like, yes, it was dismissed under the TCPA for the reasons of a public not having enough evidence for a public figure. But that doesn't answer the fact of did this actually happen or not. It's just, did it happen to the extent that it would pass a TCPA? I think what my perspective was, it's like you're wanting answers, Vic's wanting answers, everybody in this situation is wanting answers. None of you are getting it from the TCPA. So,
but that's why I'm saying it's a matter of where you're looking. So for us, we said our truth, and he chose to sue us. So we already gave our answer. Now we got a response from the court that we expected because we stood our ground, right? So he didn't, or the public didn't get the answers that they were hoping for. But that's the thing what we're saying. We spoke our truth. He decided to sue, and then this was the result because he didn't provide a single drop of discovery or evidence that we were lying or that was a lie.
Well, here's one thing I just want you to consider, though. Sure. And I'm not saying that I think that you're lying, right? I don't say, because you clearly believe what you're saying, so you believe it. What if there is a chance that what you have heard or what you believe, in fact, might not be true? I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm not saying you're making it up. I'm saying you're basing your belief on facts and evidence that you have seen. What if those facts and evidence are not necessarily what they seem to be?
See, and that's where Vic got misled in this lawsuit. He isn't on trial. He isn't the one being sued. He chose to sue us. So he put us in the position that we are supposed to be perceived innocent until proven guilty, right? So this was never about proving any innocence on Vic.
Tell that to KV. Come on now, Ron. You have just said this yourself. He's not on trial. And to be honest, neither are you, because it's not that kind of court case. But everyone on KV are like, oh, it's over. He's lost. They've found him guilty. But you got Ron, the active person who is in this suit, saying, no, he's not on trial. He's not this. He's just suing us because we said this. That's it. Maybe KV should actually listen to what Ron is saying, because a lot of the time, a lot of the things I'm seeing on Twitter as well is either by people who are just being given third, fourth, fifth hand information, and they're just seeing little bits of excerpts out of context and everything else, and they're like, oh, see, yeah, he's guilty, he's been found guilty. Ron says different. Maybe you should think about that.
He was trying to prove that we did something wrong. So I'm not trying to, our position in this situation isn't trying to make him or do any favors to him, right? Mm-hmm. It is solely to prove that we did not err in our exercising of our rights to free speech. So while there is matter of debate, maybe this or that is accurate or not, that's why it was futile for him to file the lawsuit, because you could leave it up for debate and leave it on the social forum, because people are calling me like an abuser, right? I could try to sue them. So then I'd have to try to prove to them that I'm not an abuser. So how am I supposed to do that when there's some level of documentation and history? Now I could try to justify and counteract all the depositions, right? Or that affidavit that's against me, but it wouldn't matter. I wouldn't be able to prove it. Plus you have to prove damages. So why this was such a dumb thing for them to pursue is that moment there. So while there are answers that are left undone, that would be if we were suing, if people decided to sue him and charge him for the crimes or crimes that people think he committed, or maybe, perceive, that would be a different scenario. Then yes, answers need to be done. But in a situation where he's saying we did something wrong, then we provided enough information to the judge to say, look, here's our shit. We didn't do anything wrong. Done. Now, if somebody tries to sue him for something, then those answers and those things need to be really detailed, explored. But he was trying to say we did something wrong by exercising our free speech. And he decided to sue and then put all these extra shit on there, like tortious interference and all this stuff.
We have the evidence, Ron. You tried going to Kamehacon and getting them to cancel him. The evidence is it. The evidence was used in the court case.
Other stuff. And his lawyers should have known better. And that's the part where we have problem, and their answers will never be done because their answers that would be answered if the roles were reversed. And that's the part that's disappointing in the situation, and why I've been so passionate about it, because fans are hurting, people are hurting, and they're wanting answers, but they're wanting answers if the lawsuit was flipped to try to prove Vic's innocence. This was never about proving Vic's innocence or this. It was just proving that we didn't lie, or that we were okay in expressing our free speech. And all extra shit was put in our mouths in words that never happened. And that's the frustrating part about this, is like, we're being perceived as these animals and mean people, when Monica literally said, if he does X, Y, and Z, I'd be the one to help him get back here. And people criticize her for that.
There's a problem with that.
No one criticized her for that.
There's a problem with that, though, is we can look at, I don't know how many people in the last several years who have gone through similar things, similar accusations, whether it's sexual, physical, anything. There is no coming back after you cross the point of criticality. And that point happens when the cascade of losing all your income, losing all your jobs happens. Whether or not he admits to being right or wrong or pursuing help, it's unlikely that the places he worked at will rehire him. It's unlikely Funimation rehires him after going through therapy. It's unlikely Rooster Teeth does. It's unlikely conventions would come back and say, well, you've done therapy for a year or two, we'll bring you back. It's highly unlikely.
So that's a
fair proof in history here.
And that's the thing where I feel like that everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I feel like he didn't get the opportunity. So you're looking at a guy who has done work, because I did have a bad reputation, who went through a long thing. Now, yes, mine wasn't about incidences with sexual indiscretion and stuff like that. But I disagree in my heart that somebody can't rebound from this, because I feel like the world is evolving and they're understanding that people have toxic masculinity that needs to be resolved, that people have in the past been racist, that can admit their faults and they can be redeemed. People can have a boundary issues that they didn't realize that were there, that can admit their shit and put some work in, and then over time could be accepted back in the community. But it has to be not the goal. Like when I started pursuing my goal to be a better human, it wasn't about being in an industry. It wasn't about being, making money. It was about looking on the inside, right? And I painted this picture. So I'm going to put this out to all three of you guys, right? What if, hypothetical, Vic stays with his current apology, didn't file the lawsuit. Imagine this. He starts doing video blogs about his therapy session or just self-development, reading. He starts doing some stuff, right? Not even saying he goes all deep and admits everything that people have accused him from. Just stays with it.
You almost slipped up then. Oh, everything they've accused him of. That's how he went there. And with that there, I do want to just say, it's like, when all this first kicked off, we got tweets from Ron saying, oh, I'll extend an olive branch. I'll do this. I'll do that to help him. But then it was like almost suddenly, within a matter of a couple of tweets, his entire perspective has just switched, literally just flipped. And we know exactly what Ron's like. We know what the people are like around him. And they've all said, literally, like, oh, if he does this, we can do this. And I've spoken to a number of people around the world, on Twitter and everything else, who have been victims of things that they're accusing Vic of. And all these people are like, no, I don't want them to get help. I want them to go to prison. I want them to burn. I want them to go away. Because that's what they think, because they're still hurting inside from what that person has done to them. They can't change. He's like, no, I'm not going to forgive you just because you've gone and got help. It's that sort of dynamic. And it's almost like Ron saying, oh, if he does this, people are going to be like this. Well, no, because you're just literally, you're helping him. And the way I mean by he's helping him is he has literally gone on and said, oh yeah, people have known for years. They've known for years about him doing this, about him doing that to people. There's been rumour panels, there's been this, and he's denied it all. Well, if he's denied it all, again, like what people are saying about Ron at the moment, like with Crest saying, well, you believe what you're saying. Well, maybe Vic believes what he's saying because he's telling the truth. And he's got his free speech. Again, this whole situation, this whole court case is, in my eyes, when it all went ahead, I was like, right, okay, fair enough, let's see how it goes. But then I was like, it's literally trying to censor. And I'm not against Vic for that, because I'm still 100% with him. 100% behind him all the way. But the way this court case came about, it was almost literally like, boom, thrown it together. Obviously, you had Nick and everyone else going, yes, he's doing this. But the sad thing is, Judge Chupp, when he went over it, you could tell in the transcripts, the way he was talking to people, he didn't really care. He didn't really want to be there. So he was like, oh, how can I get rid of this faster? How can I do this? How can I do that? Oh, just go to mediation. Just go there. Go and do something there. And then they were like, oh, yeah, we couldn't come to an agreement. But the last time Ron was on Cress and Mr. Hop's podcast, he said, yeah, if he wants to hash something out, we can go and do that. You could have done that in October. But they didn't.
This current statement that he put out, that he's, seeking help, he's going to reconnect with God. So he's talking about it. And now with coronavirus, it's been a year, no cons are going on. But he's been blogging about how he's learning and adapting and changing. What happens then? What could have happened by now if he didn't do the lawsuit, if there wasn't a bunch of atrocious things said about one of the most respected ladies in the industry, and all this other stuff, right? What could be the scenario right now? What would it look like? We don't know. He didn't get that. So what could it look like?
It would be unlikely he gets rehired by anybody. I can state pretty confidently that no company is going to want to take that risk, because now you fired someone for allegedly doing these things potentially.
But that would never be public. The lawsuit wasn't. If turmoil didn't happen with Nick and all the other stuff, so let's pretend that
he was fired before the lawsuit, though.
But it wasn't until the harassment kicked in with Nick's involvement in the.
Well, I'll put a pause on that for a moment, though.
Yeah.
Just because, let's just say this: you're making the assumption that you're in control of what other people think about you. That's not the case.
Mm-mm.
Like, whatever Vic did from that point forward, he does not have control over what other people will hire him for, what other people invite him for. He just has control. He has control over what his actions are going to be. But the fact of the matter is, you're saying that this is more public because of Nick and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That may be true for the greater whole, for the people that don't necessarily watch anime or whatever else.
Yeah.
But in terms of the anime conventions themselves, like, I was part of anime convention runner groups, etc. This was topics of conversation before anyone started talking about it online, because this is things that people that are in the industry are keen on and aware of. And while not, but Joe Schmo on the street who didn't know Vic Mignogna 16 months ago might know him now, people in the convention scene would know him. And despite whatever else that goes on, if he hadn't filed this lawsuit, that would follow him for the rest of his career.
I have to end it by there because my battery is about to die. But it's getting good. Obviously, we have got quite a bit to go. We are currently on an hour and a half of 5 hours. But if you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment and your opinion down below. And I'll see all you lovely people soon.